Hey everybody, it's Rockula and welcome back to Rockula Retrospective. It's day 21 of my VEDA series, 30 Bands in 30 Days. VEDA stands for Vlog Every Day in April, and today's band is the Ramones. There are three major bands that affected my early musical development. The first one was Kiss, and then around the same time, my interests would split into two different directions. The musician in me started to identify with Rush, but the artist in me identified with the Ramones. Although Rush can be counted as accomplished musical artists, they didn't concentrate much on their image. The Ramones, on the other hand, had a very strong image. They all looked the same with their black leather jackets and their bangs growing past their eyes. I didn't know anything about the Ramones until I saw a commercial for the film Rock and Roll High School. Then Teenage Lobotomy ended up on one of the compilation tapes that I made from the Dr. Demento show. A few years later, I taped Rock and Roll High School when it was on TV. This film was a very important moment for me because of one scene in particular, the concert scene. I'll get into that a little bit later. I was having fights with my mom about growing my hair, so I devised a plan to get a short Ramones-style haircut and try to sneak it past her. After it grew into the Johnny Ramone haircut, there was no turning back. Keep in mind, I had never heard anything about the Ramones up until now. My world had been completely centered around Kiss until 1981. Rush was already starting to catch my attention, but I wanted a band with a strong image to replace Kiss, and I found it in the Ramones. If you compare the two on the surface, they appear to be complete opposites. Kiss is colorful, bright, and slightly androgynous. They try to portray themselves as glamorous. The Ramones were the anti-Kiss. They tried to look as much like each other as possible, and they assumed the moniker of Ramone as if they were brothers in real life. It's not that they were trying to make themselves ugly, they were just accentuating the ugly that was already there. But at the core, what you have are two bands that concentrate as much on the presentation as the music. I bought Rocket to Rush at the Kmart about 82 or 83 and flipped out over it. If you are looking for a Ramones starter kit, then this is the album for you. That's all I knew about the Ramones until the album Too Tough to Die came out in '84. I saw them at the Arcadia Theater in Dallas, Texas for the first time on that tour. I had been to a couple of concerts by then, but they had all been arena shows where I was a million miles away from the band. My seat was halfway back on the floor of the Arcadia Theater. I was completely unprepared for what was about to happen to me as the lights went down. The theme from the good, the bad, and the ugly started to play, and the hey ho let's go chants started to flare up. The energy was building as flashlights directed each band member to their spot on the stage through the darkness and dense smoke. The intro song builds into a climax and lights come on as the bass player barks out 1, 2, 3, 4 into the mic, and the whole place exploded. My previous concerts were Kiss, Rush, and Ozzy with Motley Crue. I had never seen anything like this. People were slam dancing and it scared the crap out of me. I did manage to venture close to the edge of the pit, but I was way too intimidated to join in. The entire set was a blur because of the rapid-fire succession of songs that only let up for a few moments, and then it was back at it. Nowadays, when I play a gig and we need to crowd a lot of material into the set, I tell the band, I'm gonna Ramones it tonight, and you'd better be ready. The girl I took as a date didn't work out, but the Ramones certainly did. That was it. I was hooked, and I had found a new band to identify with. You couldn't find a lot of Ramones albums at the Kmart, so I had to go to a real underground record store. That store was Bill's Records and Tapes, and I was able to discover the entire back catalog plus Too Tough to Die. I remembered Bill from his earlier days at Vicon Village, but now he had this huge store filled with all this stuff. Earlier in my life, the media had portrayed punk in a very negative light, but that didn't seem to be the case once I started shopping at Bill's. All the metal magazines were pretty anti-punk as well, and I was a bit weary when I walked in and there were people with mohawks and different colored hair. I assumed they felt the same way about me as I was supposed to feel about them, but the punks at Bill's treated me just fine as I asked my newbie questions about the Ramones. I mentioned that Kiss was the first play-along band for me with the drums. One of the most important albums of my early Ramones years is It's Alive. It has the distinction of being the first play-along album for me on the guitar. My friend Robert Abrams explained that the guitar parts for the Ramones could be played with just 2 fingers. Remember when I told you about taping Rock and Roll High School off of the TV and being really interested in the concert scene? Well, once I got my own guitar, I proceeded to wear that tape out and watch the concert scene over and over, stopping on all of the close-ups of Johnny Ramone's hands. Most guitar players try to dazzle you with their left-hand fretwork, but the Ramones are all about the right hand. You need a lot of stamina to play that many downstrokes, but I had been playing drums for several years, and my wrists were already trained for endless rapid movements. Before long, I was able to play all 4 sides of It's Alive on the guitar. Basically, what I'm saying is that the Ramones inspired me to become a multi-instrumentalist. Not only that, but they unknowingly planted the seeds of how I would work with electronics in the future. If you're already familiar with the Ramones, I bet you're asking yourself, how could this band influence your electronic music? Well, if you look at the way the Ramones write and play, you will see that there is very little fancy shit going on. Everything about the Ramones is a straight line. There's no double bass, or slapping or popping. There's no whammy bars or wheedly-wee guitar solos. The Ramones are like an endless series of straight-ahead punches and jabs. The guitar and bass achieve this feeling by playing all downstrokes, resulting in a series of palm-muted jabs and wide-open chord punches. Being a drummer, I could very easily understand a more rhythmic approach to guitar like this, and it gave me more confidence to explore the guitar and bass down the road. When I got a sampling pad, I would sample those punches and jabs and come out with a very interesting and different result. I estimate that I've seen the Ramones about 15 times with every lineup except the original one with Tommy. I really identified with their image. The outwardly cartoonish look was great for getting lots of attention, but there's a second element to the Ramones style. Growing my hair down into my eyes was very helpful when I wanted to hide from the world. I could look you in the eye when I was feeling powerful, but I knew that feeling would quickly diminish and all I had to do was tilt my head down forward and block the world out in front of me. The Ramones were the guys who took not fitting in and made it their biggest strength. They attracted all the people who were disaffected by their own subcultures and gave them a new collective identity. They proved to the world that art could be lowbrow on the surface and yet show amazing depth after repeated exposure. Mondo Bizarro was the last album I bought. I just couldn't get excited over a Ramones album without Dee Dee. In fact, the only songs I like on that album were written by Dee Dee. I think that tour was the last Ramones show I ever attended, and I would not go on to see them at Lollapalooza. There is absolutely no way that you can remove the Ramones' influence from my musical DNA. I may lean heavily towards progressive rock, but the Ramones taught me a lot about minimalism. What do the Ramones mean to you? I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Also, I would appreciate it if you liked, shared, and subscribed. Thanks for watching my VEDA series 30 Bands in 30 Days. The Ramones represent my adventures down the right fork of the road, but tomorrow is day 22, and the band that led me down the left fork is Rush. I'm Rockula, and this is Rockula Retrospective.